Hey, it's your friendly neighborhood potato witch. Welcome to the show. You know, sometimes when I'm playing video games, I just want to have a chill time and not get worked up over saving the world, or taking down some evil corporation, or killing the gods, or any of the other zillion plots to a lot of the games I'm typically very fond of playing. Sometimes I just want to relax and live the virtual quiet life outside of town, and yep, you know exactly where this is going. My time at Portia. Not Harvest Moon. Could have been Harvest Moon, but it's my time at Portia. Anyway, my time at Portia is one of those games that's very similar to Harvest Moon games, but it definitely has its own unique style. Where Harvest Moon games emphasize farming and crop production, my time at Portia goes instead for a sort of hands-on making stuff sort of deal. And yes, I know that's vague, but it really is the best way I can describe it. You might think at first that it's carpentry, but you're working with stone almost as quickly as you're working with wood, so that's not really accurate. Plus, with the right machines, you'll be able to create cloth, metalwork, food, and yes, even growing some crops if you want. And sure, you get to do stuff like cooking in Harvest Moon games as well, but in my time at Portia, the emphasis really is more on running your workshop and creating a wide variety of things, with no particular focus beyond, can I make this? Yeah? Okay, let's make it. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let's start at the beginning. Right at the very beginning, in fact, because I want to take a moment to talk a little bit about the character creator. I mean, it's fine as these things go, if a little bit limited in options. But I played this game on the PS4, and it felt pretty clear to me that it was mostly designed for the PC. What makes me think this? Well, something as small as deciding your hair and eye colors, actually. You choose from a color wheel, which makes sense as far as these things go, but you pick the color by moving the right analog stick. One full turn of the stick moves you one full turn around the color wheel. So you have to angle the stick at the right color you want and then immediately let it go and hope that the slight vibration of it returning to its neutral center position doesn't shift your color selection. And it will. It did multiple times for me. Also, that square in the middle where you can further define the shade of the color you picked? Yeah, I don't know how to access that. At all. Seems like this was mostly designed with the idea that players would just click a mouse to select stuff, and they tried to make that work with consoles, and it just kinda didn't. Maybe there's a way to get this to work, but if so, I couldn't find it. But okay, even though that's an early gripe, let's get into the real game. Character creation is fun and all, but you don't play a game solely for the avatar that you get to move around. Or, you might. I don't know, I don't judge. Anyway, the game really starts with you arriving in Portia for the first time, after finding out that your dad left you his old abandoned workshop, while also apologizing for being a bad dad. I guess transferring ownership of a broken down building is supposed to make up for that. Anyway, you're in Portia now, determined to make the best of this and to help bring the town to its true glory along the way. A guy named Presley tells you to go to the Commerce Guild, and he'll fill you in on how you can help out around here. See, since you have a workshop, you can be part of the Commerce Guild and make things to sell, or take commissions from people who randomly need 4 stone bricks for their shop because reasons. Doing commissions for people can get you money, experience, and increase your workshop's reputation, which comes with its own rewards. So Presley's about to hand over a commission he held back specifically for you, when suddenly this guy named Higgins runs in, steals it because he just has to be the best and do the most commissions, even if that means being a jerkwad, and runs out again. Presley has an, oh well, what can you do moment, but then fortune be praised, someone else walks in and says they have a job for the guild, and how convenient that you're still standing there and in need of some work to prove yourself. This task is to build a bridge over the river so that people can reach nearby Amber Island, and if you think that's just going to involve slapping down some boards and nails, you've got another thing coming. No, you're going to need copper pipes and stone bricks, hardwood planks and bronze plates, and that means you're also going to need the machines that will make those things, which you have to build yourself. Building the bridge to Amber Island is not a quest that'll be over in a couple of days. You're going to be working at this for at least a week. Fortunately, unlike regular Commerce Guild commissions, plot-related commissions don't really have a time limit, so you can typically take your time and make the stuff for the bridge at a leisurely pace. Which is great because there is a lot to get sidetracked by in this game. I mentioned the Commerce Guild commissions, which aren't mandatory to take, but you do get some cool stuff if you bother with it. Your workshop can grow in reputation and win awards, you can earn some decent money, plus you can make your workshop awesome enough to remind Jerkwad Higgins that he's not the only game in town. Plus, doing commissions will increase your relationship with the person who made the request, so it's a quick and easy way to boost your friendship with people. Some quests are easy and involve stuff you can pretty much make instantly, others take a little longer and involve more complicated stuff. The downside is that you can only take one commission per day. which is kind of weird when it's still morning and I've filled one request in like 10 minutes and there are still other commissions on the board. Dang it, Presley, no one else is going to take these, so why can't I? Though to be honest, Jerkwad Higgins can actually take commissions from the board if you don't get to them quickly enough. The postings there don't only apply to you, and at one point I was just about to select one only for it to disappear and for Higgins to walk off with it. So if you want your pick of the best commissions, you'll have to arrive early and choose fast, because otherwise you might lose your chance. It's an interesting touch of realism that I both like and am occasionally frustrated by. But mostly like. In addition to Commerce Guild quests, citizens will also just sometimes give you random requests. These come with the same sort of rewards and have no time limit on them the way guild commissions do, but they're also a bit more sporadic. Still, if you're feeling overwhelmed by all the stuff you have to do early in the game, finding one of these can actually feel pretty good, because even though it's another task to complete, you don't typically have to complete it right now. But oh boy, I have only scratched the surface of all the things to do in my time at Portia. Do you like exploring abandoned ruins and digging up buried treasure? Good, because there's a lot of these ruins dotted throughout the game, and exploring them was probably more fun for me than it was meant to be. You slap on a freaking jetpack and a pair of doofy-looking goggles and start chipping away with your pickaxe in search of lost relics of the past, which you can eventually put together at the research center. I feel like I turned some of these places into human-sized ant farms with all the tunnels I dug in my pursuit of shiny things. I swear, at some point, 1,000 years in the future, aliens will land on what used to be Portia, find these tunnels, and determine that this area was once populated entirely by tunnel-dwelling weirdos. And I have the screenshots to prove it. Also, sometimes you come across secret rooms that are populated with little robots. So, that's a thing. The abandoned ruins where you dig also gives you a lot of stone and ore, which you need to make things either for yourself or for townspeople. Different colors of rock determine what kind of ore you can get from it, and it's little touches like that which make this game feel so well put together, so highly detailed and rich with promise. Need more iron ore? Great, start swinging your pickaxe at all the red rocks and you'll stock up in no time. Manganese? That's the greenish stuff right there. Details like that are so good in this game, because figuring out all the little nuances feels like actual discovery, a proper accomplishment, and it's a lot of fun to have that light bulb moment when you realize that, oh, that's how this all works. As you dig, you'll find a whole load of these little data discs which look an awful lot like old CDs. Because they are. You see, my time at Portia has its own history and lore, and it turns out that long ago, humanity got too big for its britches and created technology that caused its own downfall. Now the Church of Light has risen to prominence, and part of their goal is to keep forbidden technology out of the hands of the people so that the same thing doesn't happen again. And who knows what those data discs might contain? Who knows what deep and terrible knowledge is contained within its files? Better to hand them over to the Church instead, in exchange for technology that they approve of. Because that's not creepy at all. Or, as an alternative, you can give them to the research center, where they can extract the data on the disks to give you, I don't know, probably the same approved technology. I don't know, I haven't actually given any to the Church because that mentality just gives me the shudders. So I actually don't know if what you get from them is any different. But the research center isn't telling me that my old AOL CDs might cause humanity's doom, so I'm gonna go with them instead. Anyway, they extract the data to give you blueprints and whatnot for stuff that you can build, and also help restore pieces of old artifacts to their former glory, which is kinda neat. The more I find digging in abandoned ruins, the more stuff I can restore to create decorations for my house, blueprints, or just cool sciencey things to give to Petra so she'll like me more. Speaking of giving people things so they'll like you more, you can do that. You can check your relationship with everybody you encounter in town, and over time become friends and gain their trust, which gives you certain bonuses such as store discounts, or them giving you gifts sometimes. Giving gifts gives you more relationship points, and the more they like the gift, the more points you get. Giving them something they dislike takes away points. Pretty simple. One thing I really like about the way this game handles NPC relationships is that it actually lets you keep track of things that people do and don't like. Seriously, there are like a zillion games involving relationship points and gift giving, and most of them don't give you anything in-game to help you keep track of that. But my time at Portia takes pity on its players, showing in the character's info screen what gifts you've given and whether or not they liked it. It's a great feature, and I really wish more games did this. Like most games of this type, you can not only form friendships with nearly all of them, but there's a good variety of characters that you can form romantic relationships with too. And the best thing of all, the romantic relationships are not gender-locked, so it doesn't matter what gender you play or what gender you want to date, your options are wide open. I guess this town is filled with bi folks, and you know what? I'm very much okay with that. Personally, I've got my sights set on Emily, a cute girl who lives on a nearby farm. I originally wanted to date Alice, a florist and aspiring writer, but then I swear Emily started actually flirting with me, and you know what? It was love at first... giant melon. Yeah, love at first melons. Let's just go with that. There are a lot of characters to meet and greet around Portia. You've got your typical NPCs like storekeepers, the mayor, women who like to do yoga in the mornings, you know the drill. But then you've got your more unique characters such as Toby. Toby with a typo in his name. Red-haired peanut butter gamer. A fat pink cat who I keep feeding fish in the hopes that she'll love me. A guy who was raised by bears who is also wearing a bear skin. And a bear. In a housecoat. Yep, this is normal. Again, similar to Harvest Moon games, my time at Portia has a calendar. 4 months to a year, and each month representing a season. There are some festivals to participate in, such as the Day of Memories at the end of summer, which works almost exactly like Halloween, but has an actual in-game reason for not being held in the fall, but I found them to be far fewer than in most Harvest Moon games. There's usually one big event per month, maybe 2 if you're lucky, but that's it. I mean, that does give you plenty of time to prepare and not constantly get distracted from making things just because there's a cooking contest and a fishing festival in a single week or something, but it might have been nice to throw in a few more events to spice things up a bit. Yes, in other games they can feel a little bit overwhelming, with so many options and such limited time on your hands, but most of the time I can either participate in those things or just ignore them with no skin off my back. Here, there's not much to ignore, which is nice sometimes, but also less to look forward to, less to challenge different skills or make me shift my priorities. Getting back to the variety of things you can do in this game, there is sort of a main quest line to follow. It's not very story heavy, but all of the main quests will make Portia more prosperous, and thus a more appealing place. From setting up attractions to starting a public transportation system, there's so much to keep you busy. Heck, just in the first 2 months of the game, I made a haunted cave attraction, got beaten up by a couple of con artists, and utterly destroyed Tamatoa's cave-dwelling cousin. I even participated in a local martial arts competition, using my secret strategy of hit them once, then keep running in circles so they can't hit me, and so I win by default when the timer runs out. And all of that is in addition to all of the work I did completing Commerce Guild commissions, roping cattle, building things in my workshop, fishing at different fishing spots, and exploring as far as I could on the map. Speaking of exploration, I have to say that my time at Portia is incredibly well balanced when it comes to expansion and things to do. Just when I think I've got a proper handle on what I can do in the open areas of the map, which resources are where, the game throws me a curveball and unlocks a new location for me to explore, and all of it runs so seamlessly that accessing said new area isn't done by a loading screen. No, except for things like ruins and caves, the map is one great big open hole. Probably should have rephrased that. And in fact, there are a lot of areas that are technically locked off that you can still access if you know where to look and how to take advantage of jumping up walls. And each new area gives me new enemies to fight, different things to forage, and secret treasure chests to find and open. Which there are a lot of, by the way, just scattered all over the place. In town, out in the fields, just about everywhere you can go. Don't be afraid to open them up. They don't belong to anyone. You won't be accused of stealing someone's stuff, even if the chest is right freaking there on someone's balcony, and you can only get to it by jumping over rooftops. Go ahead, open it. You've earned it. I mentioned combat before, and there is plenty of that in here too. And no, you really can't avoid it. Some of the main quests require you to clear out all the monsters from certain areas, so if you were hoping to play through this as a nice, relaxing, violence-free game, you won't really have that experience here. Not if you want to actually get anywhere anyway. For its part though, the combat is really simple. You press a button to use your weapon. Or your fists if you don't have a weapon. Or even your tools if you want. The game gives you lots of options for killing stuff. No need to get great timing on your swings, no fancy moves, just mash a button. Dark Souls, this is not. Kill stuff, harvest their body parts for crafting supplies, easy as pie. Some enemies hit harder than others, some will stay docile unless you attack them first, and a lot of enemies just seem to have a stronger form that will randomly spawn, but for the most part, it's pretty basic stuff. Though, if you want to kill as few things as possible while playing, you can pay the Civil Corps to go off and kill stuff for you and bring back whatever items you need. It's really useful if you have a bunch of spare money and too many tasks that are keeping you from going out and harvesting everything yourself, or if you know you need a specific item but just aren't sure which creature drops it. Absolutely everything you do in this game gives you experience, whether it's killing monsters, or instantly making a whole bunch of stone stools at your workbench and selling them all for quick profit. Rocks are freaking everywhere in this game, and stone stools are one of the earliest things you can make that use nothing but a couple of rocks. But it's also true about the sheer number of ways you end up collecting experience points for nearly everything. But it's a good thing, really, because in addition to all the typical simulation elements, this game also features a level system and skill trees. Going up levels does exactly what you think it would, giving you a little more HP and stamina each time, but it also gives you a skill point, which you can spend to give yourself increased chances of getting more relationship points when giving gifts, or getting better harvest when you chop down trees, or higher defense to help you hold out longer against tough enemies. You probably wouldn't guess it to look at this game's style or tone, but my time at Portia is actually a post-apocalyptic game. Yeah, I know, right? Lovely pastoral setting, small town, monsters running around to make the whole thing feel like a fantasy setting. But yeah, 100% post-apocalypse, and that's just kinda awesome. See, after what I'm pretty sure was a nuclear winter in which most of humanity died off and the survivors suffered in cold, dark conditions, this guy named Peach... No, not that one. Probably, came along and saved the world. Somehow. Details are vague enough that it actually feels like a myth rather than a piece of history, and I kinda like that, because it's a cool interpretation of lore. Peach parted the clouds and the sun shone again, and humanity began to recover and begin anew, only with an eye to not causing nuclear winter again in the future. Hence the church's prescription on certain technologies and why there are ruins around in the first place. The more you play the game, the more you get to see how technology and faith mingle and clash, how people interpret the stories of humanity's past, and how society was reshaped and new traditions rose from the ashes of old ones. It's really neat to see this because there is so freaking much in this game that didn't have to be there, didn't have to be incorporated to make a compelling game, and yet it was. The post-apocalyptic history didn't have to play any part in the game. It could have just been one of those fantasy-esque settings of, yep, there were people here before and they screwed stuff up, but now here we are instead. And yes, that is part of it, but it goes a lot deeper, and different ideologies are clashing as society progresses. Different people have their own takes on what's right and wrong, what constitutes acceptable risk where technology is concerned, and I love that attention to detail, along with everything else. But you know, no game is perfect, so here's something I know you all came here to see. Glitches! There was also this one time when I clipped through the floor of a ruin and fell forever into the void, but I wasn't recording when that happened and I couldn't reproduce it, so yeah, sorry about that. Now, in fairness, most of these glitches are really more of an issue of collision detection and NPC pathfinding, so I guess they're more weird errors than outright glitches, but still, they're pretty funny to see, and I figured they were worth showing off. For the lulz. Not sure where to class the issue of quest items not being properly removed from my inventory, though that's not a huge problem since I can still sell those or just get rid of them when they're no longer needed. It's not like they take up permanent space, which is a bit of a saving grace where that's concerned. But you know, one thing that really got me about my time at Portia was that so much of it was extremely polished, highly detailed with lore and things to do and characters with different wants and abilities and all that stuff. And yet, there's one big area that, to me, makes this game feel like it could really have used a little bit more work. Grammar. Yes, I can hear the sharpening of pitchforks and cries that I'm some sort of slavish stickler to linguistic convention, but seriously, you play enough video games and you start to see certain patterns emerge. And it's not that games with linguistic errors are bad games, but that sort of problem tends to show up in bad games, or at least games that are rather unpolished. Games that were originally made in another language and that someone hurriedly translated in order to cash in on an English market, for instance. It comes across as inattentive, unpolished, and like somebody couldn't be arsed to make sure they hired a proofreader who could actually do their job properly. And it's not just a couple of little typos like its versus its, though that stuff does show up. It's the loading screens that talk about the mysterious salesman and mysterious sale-man. It's the awkward phrasing behind requests like, our home needs 4 single chairs recently. Stuff like that. Things that don't affect gameplay, but do make me raise my eyebrows and wonder how this stuff wasn't caught beforehand. It's at odds with the sheer amount of deep and gorgeous detail present in the rest of the game, and even though it's a relatively minor thing, I still feel it's something worth pointing out, mostly because it's exactly the kind of thing you see most often in games that don't have polish. Not exactly a category that most people want their game to fall into, especially when there is so much else to love about it. Really though, my time at Portia is overall a fantastic game and well worth the price. I was lucky and got my copy on sale, but after spending hours and hours playing it and never once feeling bored, I can say that it's easily worth the full price. It's well paced, it's full of things to do to keep you busy, and it's as relaxing as any pastoral life sim you'll encounter, only with a fresh original flavor to make it stand apart from the competition. At the time of this review, I've already sunk dozens of hours into it, played more than a full year of game time, and I'm still not even close to uncovering all that the game has to offer. Not even remotely. Growing crops, cooking, mining, improving the city, exploring the wilds, building stuff, saving people, hunting things, the family business. Oh wait, that's something else. My time at Portia has been time well spent, and I don't see that experience drawing to a close anytime soon.